Our ANZAC Day Dawn services have always been well supported by our local, state and national representatives, and today is no exception. Mr Darcy Byrne has been one of our strongest advocates, and his personal support to re-establish this ANZAC Day Dawn service after a year of COVID absence has been greatly appreciated. To provide his official remarks, I welcome His Worship, the Mayor of Inner West Council, Mr Darcy Byrne.
We come together this morning on the land of the Gadigal and Wongal people of the Eora Nation and pay respects to their elders past and present and those that are emerging. We come together to remember the 38 of our own people listed here at Loyalty Square, the 5,000 from this community who enlisted for service in the First World War, the 324,000 Australians who served overseas in that war, the more than 100,000 Australians who died on foreign soil in the last century, and the countless millions of human beings killed in war and conflict in the bloodiest era in the history of civilisation. And we remember that because war and pestilence go hand in hand, that after the loss of 20 million people who died in the Great War, that perhaps double that number of souls were taken in the great influenza pandemic that followed. We come together this year, as our fellow citizens do across the country, separated from the ANZAC generation by a century and segregated from each other for many, many months. We come together this morning in the midst of our generation's crisis, with a more vivid understanding than before of the struggle and trauma experienced by Australians who lived and died in the Great War and its aftermath. Their suffering and loss was on a scale that we who have been spared such a calamity will never comprehend. But through our battle against the virus, we've been forced to learn all over again the fragility of human society and the imperative of human cooperation. We've learned more about how it really feels to be confronted with a catastrophe. We've learned more about how cataclysmic the deadly spread of smallpox and influenza and tuberculosis must have been for Aboriginal people during the frontier wars of this country. We've learned more about who, when survival is on the line, we truly depend upon. Not so much the powerful and the privileged, but rather the nurses and the cleaners, the emergency services personnel, defence forces and frontline workers of all kinds. We've learned that when threats must be met, that there are many heroes who serve without weapons. We've learned more about the essential character of ordinary people, and as was said when the unknown soldier was entombed in 1993, the lesson is that they are not ordinary. We've learned that a pandemic like a war brings out the worst in us and also brings out the best. We've learned that we are at our best when we work in a common cause to heal the ills of our society and to seek to make a better world out of the despair and pain that has come before. We've learned more about what solidarity really means, that the common enemies of human beings can only be defeated when we are united as one human family. And we've learned anew the aching pain of enforced separation in a time of crisis. The world is large, John Boyle O'Reilly wrote. The world is large when its weary leagues two loving hearts divide. But the world is small when your enemy is loose on the other side. We've learned a lot about ourselves, and because of that, we can understand much more about the Australians we commemorate on this day. There is also much we do not know. We do not know when this pandemic will end. We do not know what health and societal crisis will come next or when it will descend upon us. We do not know in what ways our world will be changed when we emerge. And we do not know in that new world if and when Australians will be called on and asked to take up arms in foreign lands or war will come to our region. In living with these uncertainties, we can draw comfort and strength by remembering the sacrifice and courage of the Australians we honour here today.